Yazd, the Emerald of the Desert, is an oasis city deep in the heart of the desert in central Iran. This city has 3,000 years of history. Previously known as Isatis, the city's early records can be tracked to the time of the ancient Median Empire here in Iran. This magnificent oasis may be the most beautiful desert city in the world and has been constantly inhabited through its time. I'm Sahar Haqju, and you're watching Aperture. Being remote and surrounded by killer deserts, Yazd has pretty much remained intact and is where the old traditions are kept alive to this day. In the labyrinthine alleys and passages of this vast and vital city, you can find the ancient Iran so eloquently immortalized in Persia's ancient scriptures and world-renowned poetry. Its clay-colored alleys and roofed bazaars have stood witness to centuries of history. Alexander the Great is said to have marched through the city on his way to India, and centuries later, Marco Polo got mesmerized by its unique architecture, not seen anywhere else. In this week's program, we travel to Yazd and follow a young Australian tourist as he explores the beauties of this ancient city. Stay with us.
The ancient Iranians believed there were four elements of which everything was made: air, earth, water, and fire. Air, or wind, represented movement. When the wind blows, one should expect change. Inertia, or the lack of movement, is a sign of death, and movement is life. Wind is the essence of movement and the dynamism of creation. A wind tower is the key element of traditional architecture in central Iran, and it serves as a means to guide this life-giving source of energy into people's homes. The wind tower acts as an air vent to draw out the hot air from inside the living space. What is ubiquitous in traditional Iranian architecture is the use of the existing climate conditions to make life easier, and Iranian architects make best use of whatever Mother Nature have given us. Yazd has been given many names and epithets throughout its history, the most common of which is the City of Wind Towers. This is Yazd, and we are standing beside the wind tower of the Dalatabad Garden. The Dalatabad Garden of Yazd was built in the late Afshariya era by Muhammad Taghi Khan, the leader of the Khans tribe of Yazd. Muhammad Taghi Khan ordered the digging of a 65-kilometer aqueduct to bring the water from the mountains of Mehriz to the current Dalatabad Garden, so he would be able to build the seat of his power upon an oasis. The garden is divided into two parts, the interior and exterior. The exterior building is located in the east and has a pond and a high wind tower. The wind tower of the garden has the shape of a cylinder and, being 33.8 meters high, is the tallest mud brick wind tower in the world. So this is the wind catcher here?
Wind catcher, yeah. Its length is 34 meters. And excavating a canal named Dawlatabad. Later on, he commenced constructing the estate of Daulatabad garden as his residence along the stream extending from the Kannats.
Okay. And this particular...
This was his summer palace, and in front you see that was winter.
Okay, okay.
And it has gardens of, the gardens have pomegranate, grapes, and fruits over here.
Yeah. The Daulatabad Garden is regarded as the only really outstanding example of Zand-era architecture in Yazd. It also serves as a bridge linking the previous era to the next. The garden is located in the east of Yazd between Chahar Manar and Nasrabad neighbourhoods. It was built in the lunar year 1160, and it's one of the most magnificent and beautiful monuments of the Afshariya and Zand eras. The compound involves buildings, ponds and numerous fountains. In between them, there are gardens rich with pomegranate and grape trees, as well as numerous flower species that embellish the grounds of the Daulatabad garden. I became acquainted with Dasmati upon arriving in Yazd, a man typical of Iranians who kindly offered to accompany me. The story of my acquaintance with him is simple.
Salam.
Salam, how are you?
English baldi?
Well, yes, I can speak English.
Oh, right. So I was just curious about these carpets. I've never seen them like this before.
Yeah, actually, this is not carpets.
Oh, no?
No, this is all terme cloths made in Yazd. Mr. Damon,
Yes.
today I would like to give you a good surprise.
Oh, yeah?
The old heritage of handicrafts, which Yazd is proud of itself, I'll take you to Mr. Ustad Ramazan Rizai.
This guy here. And what is it exactly?
This old man is saying, who is weaving this darai. Its name is darai. The cloth's names, usually they say darai. Darai, the sentence, he's saying that the government of Yazd called some weavers
Right.
to his office.
Okay.
He told, I will pay you some and you go and practice for weaving. That money which he has given to the persons for this, that has called darai. They went to their private houses and they started weaving cloths.
Okay.
That cloth was named as darai.
Right.
استاد رمضان رضایی ببخشید این چند سال شما این کار انجام میدید؟
کار
این کار
85 سال
85 سال. He is weaving over here with this old machine since
85 years?
85 years old. How many, چند سالتونه؟
صدا خورده میشه
101, 102 years his age.
Yazd is regarded as one of the best preserved adobe, that is mud brick, cities in the world. It's also among the few large Iranian cities that have retained their historic features to this day. Researchers consider Yazd as one of the 4 focal points of civilization during the time of the Median Empire in the east of Iran. The layout of Yazd is highly interconnected, full of narrow, long, roofed alleyways. The other unique feature of Yazd is its use of very thick walls.
So, this is all very nice, isn't it?
Yeah, you have come to the place Yazd old texture, where the people from abroad come to see over here. All from all over the world.
Yeah,
And this is the old texture of Yazd.
yeah.
Not only Yazd, of Iran.
It's the pride of Iran.
That's the place is the pride of Iran.
All passages, yards and buildings in Yazd are protected against the rough climate conditions, most particularly the hot and often dusty winds. Narrow alleyways are straddled by tall walls that create shade alongside the passage, so that people are spared the oppressive rays of the desert sun. I have come back to Iran in search of relics of ancient civilization, which seem to be more freely available here than in any other country I've ever been.
We began with Tehran for only 1 day, but we go back to Tehran for 3 days. And Ahvaz, the area of Ahvaz, and then Shiraz, yes. Very beautiful city, Shiraz, yes. Impressing, people are very kind, everywhere welcome.
Yeah.
And we are very impressed and, comment dire, ému. Yeah, it's a great emotion for us to discover your people, yes, and the country, all the country.
Are you married? Yes, yes. How are you?
The other friend who accompanied me in Yazd is Nasser. I was told about him in Tehran before my journey. Nasser had an encyclopedic knowledge of Iranian history and culture, especially that regarding Yazd. Water has long been considered the source of life. Ancient people in Iran believed that life is a place through which the water is flowing, and that water is a symbol of purity and light. Heaven is also associated with water in all of Iran's religious scriptures. Many define water as awareness too, of hidden knowledge. For them, the water that flows on earth symbolizes something else, divinity.
So this is, of course, a qanat.
Yeah, and then it's a kind of useful system back to 2,500 years ago. On that time, we live inside desert, so we need water from the mountain.
Yeah.
So they start to dig the earth from the mountain to flat place to have water to guide the water to flat place, and then the people can use this water here. The first hole, they should dig the earth vertically, and then they arrive to water.
Yeah.
Then they start to dig the earth horizontally,
Right.
arrive to this area. every 50 meter, they should dig another hole because they want to bring out the soil.
Okay, okay.
So
yeah.
that, and they need light as well.
Okay, yeah.
So that they have different hole across the channel. If we collect all of these horizontal channel and vertical channel, we can go from Earth to Moon and back.
Really?
Yeah.
You mean in this one qanat or
No,
all the qanats
all
in
the
Yazd?
qanats in whole Iran.
In Iran?
Yeah. If we collect all of them, we can go to Moon and back.
Amazing.
It is pomegranate garden.
They're pomegranate trees. I didn't know what they looked like.
Yeah. You know, pomegranate is really famous in Iran, especially in Yazd, because pomegranate is one of the export fruits of Iran, especially from Yazd, because it's really famous here.
Yeah, before I came to Iran, I had no idea that pomegranates come from here, and I don't think many other people around the world do either.
Yeah.
I have a distinct feeling that I am now walking on a land under which there is a network of aqueducts. These are tunnels for the transportation of water that were built centuries ago without any advanced tools. Tunnels for transferring the essence of life from the mountains and high places to the desert. The aqueducts of Yazd are as old as Iranian civilization itself. Indeed, the oldest aqueduct in the world can be seen here in Yazd. The ancient residents of Yazd developed innovative techniques to tackle the dryness and heat of Yazd and its surroundings, a hydraulic system for transporting the water. And aqueducts carry out this task of bringing water from the mountains to the farms. The point where the water rises from the ground is the source of the aqueduct.
Now we are in front of a water reservoir. So each water reservoir had three different parts. The first part looked like this.
Right.
So you can see the steps here. The people should go down, arrive to the tap, and then they can take water from the tank.
And did they go down with buckets, or how did they retrieve the water exactly?
In ancient, the people can go down and arrive to water, and with a bucket they can take water. But from 200 years ago, they changed the rule because they want to close the tank. And with this kind of technique, it has a benefit for us. Because if you have any kind of disease and then you put your hand inside the water, you can spoil the water. So that with this technique, they can reserve the water fresh and then healthy. So it was really good technique to reserve water inside the tank.
After aqueducts were built and the water was canalized, people needed a way to store the water for the summer, so they invented a method of water storage. In these deep structures, the water is kept cold and dark to prevent it from spoiling.
Okay.
So what is this for?
It was payab. Payab means the water of Anat came to this pool from this channel and then go out from the another channel.
And they use this for
washing themselves, wash dishes, and cook.
In Iran, water storage depots, along with beautiful arches, wind towers, and high domes, date back hundreds and often thousands of years. Water, birth, and life are always intertwined. Each river or aqueduct leads you to an oasis and to renovation, freshness, and birth. The Infertility Treatment and Research Clinic of Yazd was established in 1989. The clinic's mission was to treat infertility in Iran by using the latest technology and to pave the way for the development of this know-how in Yazd Province and across the country.
Okay, so this is the IVF Research Center, I'm told. Can you tell me a little bit about what you do here?
Yes, actually it's clinical and research center, both together. We are going to the services to the patient, infertile couple, and also some research to know more about some problem about infertility.
Okay, right. And how does it work exactly? Can you explain to me roughly?
Yes, this is the special isolated part of the lab is for PND, prenatal diagnosis.
Okay.
That's mean we are going to pick up some liquid from around the fetus during the pregnancy from the mother, okay? And when we pick up in the liquid from the around the fetus, we are going to test it for the expected gene abnormality or chromosome abnormality.
Okay, right.
If it is right, it's okay. The pregnancy ongoing is continuous.
Okay.
But it's finding the problem about that, we can abort the abnormal fetus. Also, the other part, we are going to do some postnatal diagnosis as well.
Right.
After the birth,
After birth.
Maybe in the infant, maybe adult, using the blood sample, using the bone marrow, depend on the cause of we are looking for that.
What we do, we induce subarachnoid hemorrhage, which is the hemorrhage inside the skull. That project, which recently was finished and the work was published in the American Journal, was it took place here for the first time.
For the first time in the world?
In the world, yes.
Really?
Yes, in Yazd, exactly.
That's amazing.
And recently we finished another project that was the therapeutic benefit of stem cell for head trauma. The head trauma took place in rat again.
Okay.
And the work is new. It's been presented in international congresses, and it's been submitted for publication. We have very good expert gynecologists, embryologists, urologists. So I would say this is one of the most famous centers in Iran. And we have patients from all over the country. Also, we have some patients coming from Arabic countries.
I am genetic counseling in the recurrent abortion clinic and genetic disorder clinic. The most patients comes to me, they are couples, they suffer from recurrent abortion. This is a big problem in our center about the infertility.
What type of abortion did you say?
Spontaneous recurrent abortion.
Recurrent.
Yes, this is a spontaneous. Because they didn't have a chance to have a baby, they comes to solve their problem. We try to help them about to finding their problem first, and then treat them to they can have a normal baby, or sometimes we decided they have another choice for egg donation, embryo donation, or adoption. Sometimes this is our results in the end.
Just out of curiosity, like for example, say you get 100 patients and they have 100 problems. How often is it that through this kind of treatment or diagnosis that you cannot help them at all, that they must adopt?
According to our records, nearly 80% of the patients comes to us, they have a baby now.
Zainuddin Caravanserai. It's the only round-shaped caravanserai that has survived and dates back to the Safavi era, roughly 4 centuries ago. Zainuddin Caravanserai was relaunched after restoration in early 2004 and won an award from UNESCO for being the year's best restored historic monument. Lonely Planet has described Zainuddin Caravanserai as one of the top 5 tourist attractions of Iran. This caravanserai was built upon the order of the ruler of Kerman, Ganjali Khan Rig, who himself had received orders to this effect from the Safavid king, Shah Abbas the Great. At the time, armed guards loyal to the Shah were stationed there. Today, however, it is used for the accommodation of tourists wishing to stay in an exotic locale. Being here really gives you the feeling that you have travelled back in time. Each of the chambers gives you the feeling that you are resting in a caravanserai, which is a part of history.
Oh wow, this is amazing.
Yeah, this caravanserai is unique because the plan of this caravanserai is circle. So that's it's unique because we don't have any kind of caravanserai in circle shape.
This is the only one in Iran?
Yes, it's only one in Iran.
And why did they decide to build this one in a circle?
Because they want to have a new plan for a caravanserai, and because of that, you can see they build it in circle. So it's
just to impress people that they could do something different.
Yeah.
And this open roof, seeing as it's in the middle of the desert, I assume that at night time you get some views of the stars?
Yeah, exactly, because on that time the people sleep here during summer, so that they can sleep here, they can look at the stars, and they can see millions of stars on top of their head. And nowadays people want to come here and stay here to visit these stars here, and so that it's really nice.
Yeah. I can imagine it's popular. It really looks so authentic. Yeah. I'm happy I'm staying here, that's for sure.
According to legend, Siavash waded through the fire on his horse and emerged from it without any harm coming to him. Not a single lock of his hair was damaged, nor that of his horse. This happened under the order of God, and all the people were shocked. The Zoroastrian priests plucked a portion of that fire and took it to their temple, where the flame is still burning today.
We are in fire temple. This fire burned about 1,530 years. So it's the symbol of light for Zoroastrian people. Every day, early in the morning and in the evening, somebody should come here and put wood on top of this fire to burn. And then during these years, they keep this fire to burn. And then they keep fire because they think that fire can give them light, and fire can clean everything. So it's the important fire for them.
Cleaning and rebirth, or new beginning?
Pure everything.
Purification.
They have ceremony behind these doors. They can stand there next to each other, and Mubet come here to read Avesta for them, and they review the Avesta, and it's their ceremony.
My friend invited me to eat with his family, together with his wife, daughter, son and grandchildren. Although all Iranians are renowned for their traditions of hospitality, Yazdis have a special reputation for being friendly to guests. They listen to you carefully, and even if they do not understand your language, they'll try to speak to you in their own language. Maybe one of the reasons for the diversity of the Yazd sweets is the hospitality of the people. Diversity is the smell and form for entertaining guests. You must see the confectionery store firsthand to appreciate how much delicacy and patience it takes to bake them.
You might be knowing that Yazd is especially famous for its sweets.
Yeah, I've heard this, yeah.
Different kind of sweets, such as bakla, kofta, cakes, etc., etc.
Yeah. And what are we looking at here?
This gentleman is preparing kofta, and his famous sweets in Yazd.
And is this made only in Yazd, or?
Only in Yazd.
Making traditional sweets calls for much patience and above all experience. Cardamom, rosewater and pistachio nuts are the primary flavours used for the sweets in Yazd. They say they taste like the colours of Persian architecture. They repeat themselves but are still fresh each time. Zulkhaneh, Persian for House of Strength, is the traditional Persian gymnasium. Zulkhanehs were built mostly in alleyways away from the public's gaze. The Zulkhaneh activities have roots in the history of ancient Iran and the ancient Persian houses of worship. The round shape of the Zulkhaneh is a symbol of the sun and a sign of unity. In these sports, ethics is the most important thing. Older athletes are expected to have higher ethical virtues, and they serve as role models for the younger ones. The Morshed is a man with a melodious voice. He beats his tambourine in tune with his songs, one for each of the different exercises. He typically chooses his songs from the ancient epic poems, usually from Ferdowsi's epic masterpiece, the Shahnameh, or Book of Kings. Hundreds of years ago, the Morsheds would be the most agile and well-trained of the athletes. Ancient Iranians regarded earth as a symbol of fertility and growth. Religious scriptures describe the earth as the raw material used to create human beings. Of the four elements, it is the one from which humanity has sprung, with all its capability for growth and change. Earth shapes the water, wind dries it, and fire bakes the shaped earth. Artists of this land use all four elements.
When did they first start making pottery like this in Iran?
It is really hard question because in research around Balochistan, in southeast of Iran, they find some kind of fault back to 7,000 years ago. So I cannot say exact time of pottery because it's really.
But a very long time ago.
Yeah, exactly. Maywood is really famous about the pottery and ceramic. Because we have a lot of clay here around this area.
Is there any significance to what he's drawing, or is he just doing his own designs, or?
No, it's not his own design. It's back to their culture, and it shows different things. I mean, look at the sun, because they have 300 days sun here, so that is really good symbol from these cities.
Yeah.
Maybod is located in the northwest of Yazd Province on the road to Esfahan. The word Maybod is itself very old, and its use dates back at least 1,500 years. Narin Castle in Maybod is of very special importance to historians and archaeologists, as it stands as a physical testament to the development of Iranian civilization. Like a broken, silent old man, this ancient fort has recorded the memories of the good old days, and indeed the bad old days of peacetime and wartime in Yazd.
So you can see 4,000 history here in this fort. 4,000 years ago, we mix grass and mud together with water without any shape. We put it on top of each other. Then after that, in 2,500 years ago, we gave them shape.
Right.
I mean, 40 centimeter length, 20 centimeter wide, and 10 centimeter height.
These are this one's here.
Yes, exactly. And then after that, in Islamic period, they changed it, and then they gave them, they became smaller, and then 35 with 5 centimeter height. You can see it here.
These ones here. And can you explain to me the construction of the place, why it is built the way it is exactly?
Yeah, they built it in 5 different levels because on that time our society divided to 5 different groups. So they want to separate from each other.
Right.
The first level was for normal people, and second part was for farmer.
Yeah.
And then third for soldier, and for rich people, and the fifth was for our king.
The king and the royalty. Yeah.
Exactly. So that they can live in different part of castle.
Yeah.
And then with tall wall and tower, they can protect from the enemy.
Right.
So
the most important people, so to speak, can stay at the top and the safest place.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The fort dates back more than 3,000 years and was used by every dynasty in Iran's history. Like most fortifications, it was built on high ground so that it could be more easily defended. Narin Castle is one of the few remaining mud brick forts in Iran, still standing firm despite the numerous conflicts and changes of dynasties it has seen. The local legend of Narin Castle goes something like this. The castle was built during the time of the Prophet Solomon. At the time, Fars was the seat of power for the Prophet Solomon. He ordered monsters to build a fort in a mountain so that his treasure could be defended. A monster named Dal reached this mountain, and Solomon was notified. Solomon instructed Dal to build a fort from clay and stone. When Solomon died, the fort rocked to and fro.
So you can see it is old part of city.
Yeah.
And then they build this castle on top of a hill because they want to see any kind of movement around themselves.
Yeah.
And it was really best technique to protect their castle.
Maybod's caravanserai is known as the Shah Abbas caravanserai and was built 400 years ago over the top of a pre-existing one. This caravanserai is square-shaped with a central yard. Its huge wooden door helped to provide security from bandits. The grounds of this caravanserai and its perimeter involve ivans and both open and roofed spaces. The yard has 24 chambers, but the number of bed chambers reaches 100 if we include those deeper inside. There is also a small pond in the centre of the yard through which the aqueduct flows.
Okay, it was a caravanserai. And Shah Abbas started to build this caravanserai around Iran.
Yep.
I mean, 999 caravanserai in Iran territory.
Yep, on the Silk Road.
On Silk Road Way, exactly.
And I guess by the looks of things, this is one of the biggest, the more grand-looking caravanserais.
Yeah, exactly, because Maybod was a important city on that time.
Yep.
And it located on a conjunction
Yep.
of north to south, east to west,
Yep.
so that all the people wants to pass through this desert way.
And these are all places to sleep?
Exactly.
Or shops maybe, or?
And it was look like shops because they can put their goods in front of their room and then they can trade with each other.
There are other buildings in the surrounding areas that were built over time for the welfare of the caravans. They include the source of the aqueduct, a water tower, a water storage depot, a post office, an adobe fridge, and a cemetery. The Charpakhaneh, or post office, dates back to the Achaemenid era, around 2,500 years ago. The Charpakhanehs were tasked with keeping and looking after fast horses and fresh messengers, so that important letters and parcels could be sent as quickly as possible. Because of their importance to the rulers, they too were built as small forts. They typically featured high lookout towers and high walls, with spaces from which to shoot arrows. Maybod's Charpakhaneh has been restored and now serves as a postal museum.
Alright, so this was a post office apparently, yeah?
Yeah, in 2,500 years ago, our emperor forced all of the ministers should take his force just in 7 days in all the territory of Iran, from Roma to India.
You mean they should be able to travel that distance in 7 days?
Exactly.
Besides the Shah Abbas caravanserai, there is a yellow cylinder-shaped dome that formerly serves as a refrigerator, made completely out of adobe. The main components of the fridge are the ice pond, the shade-giving wall, the storage area, and the high dome. The monument was used for making and keeping ice, and given the geographical location of the region, keeping large amounts of cold water was an enormous aid to the development of civilization. It is one of the few surviving ancient fridges of Iran.
Each layer they covered with grass. We are in front of Jama Mosque. It has tallest minaret of Iran. And
Really?
Then, yeah. The height is 52 meters from top to floor. This mosque back to 800 years ago.
Okay.
But the reconstruction 600 years ago again.
And who was responsible for building it?
Sedruknuddin, he was a lawyer of Yazd, and then in 600 years ago, he paid to reconstruction here.
Okay.
Totally. This door, back to 600 years ago, before the reconstruction, this door with nail and iron.
Okay.
It was different part of wood they put next to each other look like puzzle. And then if they want to reconstruction it, they can bring it out and put another piece inside it. Just in the ceiling, on the ceiling, you can see 110 different name of God.
On this ceiling up here?
Yes. They put different bricks next to each other and look like a square.
Yep.
So that you can see 110 different name of God on the ceiling.
Right, right.
Look at that small window in front of us.
The one at the top?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Under that one, you can see 3 different alley. Under those 2 alley, you can see the symbol of Aryan.
Yeah,
Did you see?
we call that a swastika.
Swastika.
Yeah.
It's the symbol of Aryan people.
When would this ceiling have been built? When would that swastika?
600 years ago. But they want to show us we are Aryan and then we are Muslim together.
So 600 years ago they had this idea?
Yeah.
Wow, that's fascinating.
The most outstanding part of the Grand Mosque of Yazd is the Iwan, the dome section and the surrounding landscape. The high Iwan is adorned with a set of very beautiful mosaic tile works and arabesque decorations. These decorations with vault and pending pictures, as well as mosaic tablets and Kufic writing, have created a spectacular landscape that draws the admiration of many visitors.
ببخشید انگلیسی بلدی؟
بله.
Can I talk to you for a minute?
Yes.
My name's Matt. What's your name?
I'm Arash.
Arash. Cool. I'm just curious. What are you doing here?
Actually, I'm just trying to have some shapes on these footages. I'm actually an industrial designer student and studying at the Shahid Sadughi Technical University. So we thought that maybe these shapes and geometries has been used in here might be useful for our job.
How are these shapes applicable to industrial engineering?
Basically, industrial design and actually it contains some geometry. Geometry is basically made of triangles, rectangles, mostly circles. So these shapes are the main shapes that have been used in this architectural design.
Thank you so much for your time.
Welcome.
Thank you. Nice to meet you. See you later. Bye-bye.
See you.
Yazd is the city of wind, water, fire and earth. It was an amazing discovery coming to this place. I truly felt transported back to another time, and all with no people preying on me as an unsuspecting tourist.